Adebayor. His mom's doing juju, and now he can't score.
And naturally, I'm a Tottenham man, obviously. I can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America Podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory, glory night at White Hart Lane. This great and historic football club. Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable! Oh, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
This is there to tap in. What a fantastic run. He scored! And it's turned home. Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America.
Come one, come all, welcome everybody. Episode 14 of the Hotspur America Podcast, your North American answer for all things Tottenham Hotspur. With me this week, as usual, Sam Zerwell. Sam.
My man, how are we?
I'm here, and I'm good. How are you?
I'm bursting at the seams. I had 2 weeks of banter just ready to just come gushing out. Where do we start? Where do we start?
Oh, we start with Hull.
Yeah.
You know, we could start with JUJU, but we already have. So, disgustingly enough. But yeah, we'll start with Hull, man.
Golly.
What are your thoughts? I mean, right off the bat, what'd you think?
Spursy win. I mean,
Spursy win.
So I was delayed because I had stuff going on this morning, and as the red card came out in the 50th minute, I said, we will win. It will be Spursy, and because we're a man down, it's going to feel like a loss because you really can't speak to whether or not we played well because we should have been beating Hull anyway, and we played against 10 men, and yes, we played well, but what does that really say? So
Aston Villa, second verse, same as the first. Yeah.
But some encouraging things. We saw the closest thing to the lineup that we wanted to see, and we talked about last week, just doing some things that just by way of doing them, limit your mistakes, and having a lineup that makes some sense is a good start. And I thought we had that. Did you?
Yes. And it's funny because we as fans, we step back and we look at the lineup and we tinker with it and we throw it in a FIFA game or Football Manager or whatever it is that we want to do, or just on a scratch piece of paper, and we were like, why can't he see this? Why is he not running a 4-3-3? Why is he not running a 4-4-2? Why do we not have 2 strikers? And well, obviously his job is a lot more difficult than us saps who have absolutely nothing to lose, by doing these things. And I understand the pressure that he's under, and he wants to do the right thing. The players are figuring him out. He's figuring out all the players. He's been looking at a Southampton. I mean, imagine if you as a person are going to go and coach West Brom next week. Do you know all the players on that squad? I mean, it's that kind of situation. You don't follow West Brom. You don't know what those guys are doing.
Right.
So he's figuring it out, and now I think it's starting to come around. I've been hollering and screaming. I want to see 4 particular players on the pitch together.
Yeah.
Eriksson, Lamela, Soldado, and Kane, and it finally happened. Now, he doesn't have. They don't. Those 4 don't have the supporting cast. Walker's not in there. Rose is nicked, and he's been playing, pretty well this year, all things considered. And Chadley's out as well. So the supporting cast that has been there, kind of carrying things, was not part of those 4 being in there. But I thought there was link-up play in there. Lennon, when he came on later in the game, was very serviceable. The two or three crosses that he made were dead accurate. We threatened the goal with crosses all day long. You can start seeing that what Southampton did last year is starting to creep in. There was still some very underwhelming moments, let's say.
Well, look, we talked about Poch's brand being up-tempo and filled with speed, and it's always sort of mystified me. How do you have that kind of football when you don't have those kind of players in there? So certainly went into that. But look, let's take a quick step back. The first half was dreadful. The first half was, I have my notes, and I take notes as the game progresses, and it's like, it was incredibly ABB-like. I mean, it was 45 minutes of get the ball to, well, there's really sort of two issues. There's defensive woes, clearly. But then there's just brand of football once we get to midfield, and it was just very slow, very labored. 6 guys in the middle, very little movement, and again, sort of Lamella in this Eriksson in sort of a labored, regimented role, which ironically, when they went a man down, all of a sudden he became, he played more sort of a Pirlo, I hate to use the phrase quarterbacking kind of role, but he did. And boy, did we start seeing some creative play. The first half was awful, and I think I texted you that I wanted to throw a brick through my tally, which I did. It was terrible. But I think the first half was, again, no real pace, so no real flow, and then again some just howling defensive. I was surprised to see, and I thought it was kind of a ballsy move on his part to put Fazio in and take out as captain. Okay, fine. I think we all would agree that we wanted to see Dyer in. I think we'd all, when he got subbed in the beginning of the first half, I don't know whether he should have done that, but I actually thought Vlad actually brought some creativity in. Only made sort of, he's a gambler. He's like this gunslinger, right? And he makes mistakes as a result, but he's creative, and he does some kind of clever things at times. I get the fact that he does some really stupid things, but anyway.
For me, though, he's a bench player. I mean, if I'm honest, and I'm looking at the back four that I want Walker at right back, I want Rose at left back, and I want Wirtz and Dyer playing next to one another. That's the four that I want, and Kabul can be there as senior support, whatever you want to do on the bench. But yeah, you're right. If nothing's going to be out, I like Kirikesh as a backup. I don't want him in there, and I love him playing Europa League and whatever. He can make his little mistakes or whatever over there, and it's not as critical and damning to him or his character when he makes those mistakes over there.
Yeah, no.
And sometimes you need a little bit of a gunslinger mentality because it's kind of ballsy, and not for anything. That's what we've needed the last few weeks.
If we're gonna discuss who is the better substitute right back, and I think Dyer is a better player. He's a better technical player. He has a much brighter future. But I think that Vlad wants to play, and I felt like we noticed his enthusiasm today, and I just don't think that Dyer is just naturally a right back. I would like to see Dyer in that more typical, right-sided center back role. But look, I had a conversation with Adi on Twitter, and I just said, look, I think that Kabul and Fazio are about as bad as each other, but then you err on the side of experience and you pick Kabul, and you also have, sort of perceived leadership as well. But Fazio didn't do, and I counted his headers. It took him until the second half to actually make a header that actually went to one of our players.
Yeah.
And for a 6'5" guy, and look, let me just dissect the first goal. It's horrible. It was a really poor heading clearance by him. He had miles of space in front of him, and he manages to head it to Livermore. And then the other thing that I played it over and over and over again, and I encouraged everybody to do it. But Davies, he completely turned his back on a shot that never left the ground. I could not believe it. I didn't think he played terrible today. They made one mistake there, and he never really looked confident. And he always seemed very happy to make a lateral or a back pass.
Yeah, it's one of these things. Was that his first game?
First
EPL?
start, I think.
First start in the EPL for Spurs. And although he's played with the guys in Europa League and in the cup matches and stuff like that, it's a whole different world. And that he's been clamoring for it in the media a little bit. There was some stuff put out there that he wasn't all that happy. He was working for his place in the squad, just like Kirikesh, and that's fine and dandy. But when you finally get out there and realize, okay, it's put up or shut up time, you tend to make mistakes, and that's why you got to get these guys runs, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 games in a row to get their confidence built up. Listen, he shared basically the exact same stats as Luke Shaw last year. Luke Shaw was the most highly touted defender probably in the world coming out this year, and Manchester United way overpaid for him, but they were hell-bent on getting their guy.
Oh, we were glad.
30-plus million pounds. And it's
we would have been thrilled to have him.
And if you look at the stats all the way up and down, Davis had the same exact stats as him. and actually scored 2 goals last year where Shaw did not score last year.
Well, I think that's been the one thing that surprised me about Davies is I've seen him in Europe, and just, I don't know, it looks like he's a step slower, and he doesn't really fit into a very fast-paced, flowing game. It just sort of surprised me that was what I was thinking. Yet, I mean, he started pretty much the whole season last year for Swansea. I don't think he was actually slated to be the starter there, but somebody got injured, and he stepped in, and he had a great season, and I think he got the spot out of injury, and I don't think he ever lost it. So,
and maybe I'm overthinking this, but is that a product of how poorly the defensive midfield has been for us this year? I mean, they can't get back to help defend, and it's almost like these wingbacks that are flying up the sides, whether it be Rose, whether it be Naughton or whoever.
Right.
They're almost thinking, I better not be too far out of position. I got to peel my ass. And Dyer was caught chasing a couple of times today.
Yeah, he looked really sick.
So it's like, these guys are more worried about getting back and defending rather than pushing forward.
Yeah.
And the system calls for it. Most systems in the EPL call for it these days. But, I'm happy for them. They got to win.
Yeah.
And ultimately the 3 points. At this point, I wouldn't care if a missile landed right in the middle of the stadium and blew half of it off, and the ball, tinkered into the goal, and then that was the last thing that happened, and it caused us to win 1-0.
No,
I'll take the 3 points right now.
I'm right there with you. I think a lot of people talk about, not just winning, but winning the Tottenham way. I mean, we've been so poor, and not getting results. Just getting results. I don't care. The Villa was a Spursy win. This was a Spursy win. But look, it's not our fault. Keep on going back and forth whether it should have been a red card, but it is what it is, and you make the most of it.
Yeah.
And we did. But again, the thing that I just worry about genuinely is that they played us off the park in the first half. We never really scared their goal. And when a guy like Jelic is making you look silly at times, that's troubling. But you know what? But to your point, just by winning and getting results, it buys you time. Some players can develop. Some players can come back from injury, i.e. Kyle Walker, i.e. Danny Rose. I agree. There were certainly some things that were frustrating today. But by God, we're 3 points out of fourth, and I just want to get to that. I just want to get to the Christmas break. So maybe we pick up a player, and I don't think any 1 or 2 players are the answers, but just don't want to be terribly out of things. And as you spoke earlier when we chatted, we've got a run of fixtures that, who knows, although we would have liked to have gone more up to this point in this kind of lull in the fixture list, who knows, maybe we can hang around and maybe that can build some confidence.
And I had seen something that Pochettino's first 10 or 11 games, whatever it was at Southampton, had 2 more points than he does now with Spurs. So it wasn't like Southampton were world beaters when Pochettino first got there either. And it was a process, and it is a process. We understand that it's a process. Levy undoubtedly, barring some kind of absolute catastrophic fall into the, bottom quarter of the table, Pochettino's going to be there all year. The man is not going anywhere. He's not going to get sacked. He's starting to build, a foundation around him with the appointment of Broomfield, with the appointment of Paul Mitchell, henceforth coming. These are things that are, not only is Levy doing this for Pochettino and for the club, he's doing this to save his own skin. Let's get something straight. And as you look at like you said, the upcoming matches and the things that are happening, Everton next week, we're level with them on points right now. But you could arguably say that neither is playing any better or worse than the other. Potentially, based on talent, we should handle them, especially at home. We should handle them.
Well, no, I'm not that confident. I don't think we're in a position where we can feel good about that we can be confident enough to say that we can handle up on anybody. I will say this: that always seems to be a good fixture. Always seems like there's lots to play for between the two.
Yeah.
We are coming back home off of a good result. As I said, it wasn't like. At least with Villa, when we were a man down, I don't think we really even deserved that win being a man down. We certainly deserved. We certainly played well against 10-man Hull, but that's you don't get a medal for that, right? I mean, you should be beating a full strength Hull, even though it's away. And they played chippy and they had a lot to play for, a lot of pride, and But yeah, so I think there's certainly positives to take from this. It just didn't feel like a 2-1 away win probably should have. But I tell you what, the main questions that were answered is this: is that for now, our